This is the updated Hyundai i30 Sedan N, and I reckon it could be the best value, small, really fast car in Australia. And I'm going to tell you why that is in this review, and also tell you some things that might annoy you about it. So stay tuned, we're going to go for a drive, we're going to go out on the track, and this is going to be a bit of fun. Thanks heaps if you've subscribed already. If you haven't, please do, it does help a lot. All right, let's go do it. As with the previous version of this car, there is only one grade available. It's the i30 Sedan N Premium, and it's $52,000 plus on-road costs at the time I'm filming this. And that is for the manual version with a 6-speed gearbox or the 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. So both of them cost the same amount of money. There's only two options available as well. You can get the metallic paint finish, which is about $600 extra depending on which color you pick, and then there's also a sunroof to option if you want, which costs $2,000 more. So you can make it a $55,000-ish car plus on-road costs. So keep that in mind, because I'm going to tell you some competitors which might seem like better value in a sec. But let me tell you about the updates to this car. So there's obviously a visual change at the front end. It takes on the same sort of styling as the other i30 models with a sleeker new look. You've also got revised front bumpers. You've also got new 19-inch forged alloy wheels, which are lighter and stronger than the existing wheels. You've got a new rear end design as well. That red striping that runs around the bottom of the car, well, you either love it or you don't. And when it comes to the interior, there are some changes as well. You get a bigger wireless phone charger. There's a lot of carryover features on the interior, and that's no bad thing because there is still some really good stuff in there as well. And you get a new black badge on the steering wheel to match the other badges around the exterior of this car. So it seems like pretty good value for money, and it does stack up really well from standard equipment point of view. You've got LED lights on the outside, you've got those twin screens on the inside, some really nice interior trim too. So what competes with this car, or what does it compete with? More to the point. Alternatives to this car are few and far between. Because it's a sedan, it's a bit weird in the market segment. Look, there are a few other really good sedans out there at this kind of money with good performance on offer, namely the Subaru WRX, which I would recommend you go and check out if you're considering this car. It does come with a manual or a CVT automatic transmission, but it is all-wheel drive, so it does have a different driving characteristic. It's very, very punchy, and it also is more practical because they have a wagon version of the WRX, and it's really good. I've lived with one for a while and I thought it was an excellent car. So I reckon it could be a really good alternative to this. If you are looking for sedan style models or bigger cars, then maybe you could also look at the Hyundai Sonata N line. Look, it's not a full fat N model, but it does have a bigger, more powerful and torquier engine and a bigger cabin. So it might be a better fit if you're buying this as a family car, for instance. Otherwise, I mean, if you can spend more than a Volkswagen Golf R would be a really good choice, or if you're not necessarily after the full hardcore sporty drive experience but still want something that is fun and fast, then you could be looking at the Skoda Octavia RS. Check out my review of that car, you'll love it, I'm sure. There's the sedan version or liftback and a wagon version of that car too. It stacks up so well from a value perspective as well. So there are a few options, but sedans, they're not so prevalent anymore. Which would you pick? Let me know in the comments. Officially, the Hyundai i30 Sedan is a small car. It is not small. This car is 4.7 meters long, so it's a traditional mid-sized sedan just categorized as a small car. And look, this Sedan N model has seen some changes in terms of the styling. You've got that new Hyundai i30 Sedan front end with smaller, slimmer headlights, LEDs obviously. You've also got a new front end design with different bumpers, and you've also got this new black badge. But one thing I'm not loving about the front end of this car is, just like the other sedan that I drove, the shut lines aren't great. You sort of think that maybe the bonnet is still open, but it's not. Now, inside profile, you've got these new 19-inch black forged alloy wheels. They're lighter and stronger than the existing wheels, and that red character stripe that runs down the bottom of the car. Look, you can make up your own mind about that. I don't love it. I think it looks a little bit too hooligan, but you tell me what you think in the comments. At the back, you've still got that beautiful light signature with the H, if you can see it. That's a H that runs across the tail lights there. And that red stripe runs along the bottom. You've still got that triangular light at the bottom too. The H badge at the back is in black, and that big N spoiler on the back too. All right, let's take a quick look in the boot, shall we? And that is a decent sized boot. If you are looking for a family-friendly sedan, that's going to fit a pram and some luggage as well. And underneath the boot floor, thankfully, you still get a space saver spare wheel. So I reckon that it stacks up pretty well when it comes to the size and usability of this space. But let's take a look inside and see what it's like. I won't be doing a full interior teardown here, but if you want all the details on the i30 sedan's cabin, the practicality on offer, the tech inclusions, make sure you check out my i30 premium sedan review, which is linked in the description. Suffice to say though that there's a sportier treatment here, including N Sport seats with leather appointed trim, as well as heated and cooled front seats and electric driver's seat adjustment. However, that means we still miss out on the amazing illuminated N bucket seats that offer a lower driving position because they're manually adjustable. They are offered in different markets. Otherwise, the storage is good, the screens are crisp and easy to get to terms with, and the design of the cabin is pleasing. There's also heaps of backseat space, provided you're not too tall, and parents will be happy there are ISOFIX points and top tethers as well. It really is an amenable small sedan, and one that's not really that small at all on the inside. There are no significant changes to what powers the i30 Sedan N, and that's no problem because this 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine is an absolute corker. You'll see the outputs on your screen now, and it is a powerhouse of an engine, much more powerful than what you find in a WRX, for instance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can get it with a 6-speed manual if you want to shift gears yourself, or the 8-speed wet clutch, dual clutch automatic transmission, and all versions of this car are front-wheel drive. So let's go for a drive and see what it's like. There have been big changes to the drive experience of the Hyundai i30 Sedan N, including revisions to the suspension, to the steering, but it does make it a more focused but also slightly more comfortable car as well. So in the most comfortable mode, which we're in right now on a country road near Albury, it's a pretty comfortable ride. Not necessarily the most cushy. You'll get cushier if you buy one of the less sporty versions of the i30 sedan, but hey, you're obviously buying this one because you want a sporty experience, and it is sporty. It is pretty firm feeling even in the most comfortable mode, and you've also got a button on the steering wheel, a couple of N buttons. We hit it into N mode, which is the most hardcore mode, and instantly you feel everything stiffen up. You can probably see it for yourself. It's gotten a lot firmer instantly when you do that. Now the suspension is bit of a talking point when it comes to this drive experience because it is comfortable in urban driving situations as well. We've just come from downtown Albury out to this road to see what it's like on a cornery stretch, and yeah, it's good at most things, I would say. It is still though very firm, especially at the rear when you do go over sharper edged bumps. You can feel a lot of kickback sort of rebound over those sorts of bumps. And as for the steering, well, it is just as I would expect for a Hyundai N product. It's still very, very responsive and very playful as well. Remember, they call this car a corner rascal, and it is. Feels pretty rascalous to me. Obviously, you're buying the N version because you want the fast one, and it is fast. This 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine is a firecracker. Quite literally, in some ways, it actually sounds like a firecracker from the outside when the exhaust pops, but it is a very zesty engine. You do get your enjoyment out of this engine, and if you are looking for a sporty drive experience, it's not going to let you down, not in any way or shape, because yeah, it gets along pretty quick. When it comes to shifting gears, you do have the choice of the 6-speed manual, as I mentioned earlier, and also this 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. Now, if you like mechanical stuff, it's a wet clutch, dual clutch auto. I hate the sound of that, but it does actually do a really good job in a mix of scenarios. Like I said before, when you're around town, it seems to get away from a start pretty well. There's a bit of slurring sort of action at lower speeds or coming away from a standstill, but that's not something that's unfamiliar from dual clutch autos. And when it's at speed, it's got really snappy shifts. And of course, you've got paddle shifters, so you can take matters into your own hands as well. Plus, you've also got N grin shift. So that's a button you press on the steering wheel and it'll auto blip the throttle for you and downshift. It's a bit of fun. That pop and crackle out the back is just hilarious. And I mean, that's the whole point of this car. It's the sort of car that will appeal to someone who wants to have fun while they're driving, at perhaps the expense of some of the comfort elements of the drive experience. I'm not saying it's uncomfortable. You do have to contend with some things like the louder experience from the tires throwing a lot of road roar into the cabin. But again, it's not the worst that I've experienced in this type of car before when it comes to road noise intrusion. On the whole, it sort of feels to me like a more aggressive sort of take on the sporty sedan than the WRX is, and more powerful for that matter as well. So it does seem to stack up pretty well if you are considering it against a WRX. But remember, it is front wheel drive, so you do have to keep that in mind too. Another thing Hyundai says they've changed with this updated version of this front-wheel drive sporty sedan is the engine mounts to stop as much of that unpleasant experience that you might have if you accelerate from a standstill in a straight line, axle-tramp. So it sort of feels like the front end is bouncing up and down. But from my experience so far, it doesn't necessarily exhibit anywhere near as much of that as it did before. So that's a nice move as well. And another thing that it does really well is come to a stop. It goes well, but it also stops really well. That is very, very quick to come to a standstill almost. And that's really going to come into its own when you go to a racetrack. So if you want to see what the i30 Sedan N, this updated version, is like on the racetrack, hit the link at the top of the screen there, and you'll be able to watch my shorts video of it tackling a track, Winton Racetrack in Victoria. Bit of fun. You'll enjoy it, I'm sure. This car really is the sort of car that makes you smile. It's a fun car. It's got some really characterful elements. It's maybe a little bit immature in some ways. So am I. Maybe that's why I like it. So if you are the sort of person who wants to maybe feel young at heart, it could be a good choice for you. All right, let's talk about fuel consumption. The official combined cycle figure for both the manual and the dual clutch auto is on your screen now. And look, that's actually, I think, relatively realistic for someone who's going to be driving this car in a mix of different scenarios. Obviously not if you're going to go to a racetrack. You'll use more if you do, but I think you should be able to achieve pretty close to that in most real-world driving scenarios. Now, if you're wondering what I've seen on this test drive, you'll see it on your screen now. And yeah, not that far off that number. At the time I'm filming this, there is no safety rating for the i30 sedan range. So if that matters to you, you might have to look elsewhere. But it does come with a bunch of standard safety technology and equipment fitted to this car, including one thing that, well, you might not like. If you're the sort of person who buys a Hyundai i30 Sedan N, you're not going to like the speed limit recognition system, which constantly beeps at you, and you can't turn it off permanently. You have to turn it off every single time you drive the car if it annoys you. Same with the lane keeping assistance feature, which you might find helpful on the freeway, but annoying in other situations. But hey, everybody is different. There's other things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You've also got lane keeping assist, as I mentioned. There's blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and standard cruise control. You don't get adaptive cruise control. You also miss out on the blind spot view monitor camera system that you'd get if you were buying this car in Korea. So there are some things that aren't quite great about the safety stuff, but it seems to have a fairly good array of technology available. Hyundai Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty on its cars, and that includes the N range, and that also includes if you take it to a track. Just make sure you read the terms and conditions to make sure that you don't go beyond those restrictions when it comes to track driving. There's also a cap price servicing plan for this car. The first 5 years of servicing, or 50,000 Ks, because it's 12 months, 10,000 K intervals, you'll see the average price on your screen now. That's not too bad for this sort of car with this sort of performance, I don't don't think. Keep in mind though that there's also a cap price servicing plan for life, so you can check how much this car is going to cost in the really long term if you want to. And if you do service it with Hyundai, they'll renew your roadside assistance every single time you do that. So you could have infinite roadside assist. It's pretty cool. This car totally stacks up from a value for money perspective. It is a performance hero for the cash, and I reckon it stands up as one of the best choices that you could make if you want this sort of car. But I'm not necessarily convinced that the technology that's been added here has made it a better car to live with on a day-to-day basis. And so for that reason, I would also be considering a demo version of the existing model. Well, tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose the new one? Would you go for the older one? If you already own one, are you thinking of upgrading? I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps a lot. Share this video with your friends as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.